Hey everyone, it's Monday, January 18th. The time is 4:15 p.m. and the temperature right now is 1 degree Celsius. Or at least according to my phone it is. According to my Fitbit, it is minus 1 degree Celsius. So maybe we'll split the difference and say it's 0. I don't really know. There is Jesse Ketchum Junior and Senior Public School. And I'm currently at the north end of Bay Street. So that was the intersection of Bay Street and Davenport Road where I started. And for this one, I'll be heading south all the way down Bay Street to Lake Ontario. So this is the village of Yorkville that I'm currently in right now. And there's the Four Seasons Residence and Hotel. And we have an electric bus sighting. That should be the number 6 bus. When I left my home to come out and record this, there were snow flurries, quite a bit actually, up at Yonge and Eglinton. But everything seems to be pretty clear downtown. Although there's an awful lot of salt on these sidewalks. Look at that. That can't be good for the environment. It's probably contributing to that nice crunch sound you hear when I walk along the surface. I'm not sure this much salt is necessary. And just up ahead here is Yorkville Avenue, and to the left, a few blocks, is Yonge Street. And those tall towers off in the distance are at the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. There's Yorkville Avenue. And there's Pusateri's. Early on in the pandemic, they were called out for selling rather overpriced Lysol wipes. I know a number of people that used to shop there that have sworn off that place because of that. I can't quite remember what exactly they were charging for them, but it certainly made the news. And this here would be Cumberland Street, and then just south of here would be the intersection of Bay and Bloor. Eventually, this will take us down to the financial district. And we should be getting there just as the afternoon rush hour would normally be setting in. Here's a look west down Cumberland. You're almost always guaranteed to see a supercar of some sort if you head down that way. This is a rather affluent and upscale shopping area. And there you'll find the Bay Street entrance to Bay subway station on line 2. Rather than take the subway over from Bloor Yonge Station, I decided to walk. It was probably quicker doing that. And this is Bay and Bloor. So this stretch of Bloor Street here is known as the Mink Mile. If I'm not mistaken, this is the most expensive retail per square foot in Canada, and I think it also has the highest sales per square foot. There's a lot of really high-end retailers on the Mink Mile, which runs between Yonge Street and Avenue Road. Well, Avenue Road to the north, it becomes Queen's Park, south of Bloor Street. There's a look up at the Manulife Centre. This is day 5 of the province's stay-at-home order. Whoop, I kind of slipped off the curb there. There goes another electric bus. I wonder if they've been assigned to this number 6 route in particular. You don't see too many of them, but that's 3 in a row now. I saw one just before I started recording this video. And here the sidewalk's not so covered in snow, or rather salt. So the next street to the south here is Charles Street. I recently recorded a walk that went along the entire length of Charles, so you can check that out if you're interested. I talked a bit about the Manulife Centre in that video. That's that tall tower right there. There's an Indigo Books. It looks like there's a number of people awaiting curbside pickup. So depending on who you ask, I am either south of Yorkville or still in Yorkville. But I don't think any definition has it going south of Charles Street here. One thing you can do is take a look at the street signs, and they'll often have the name of the business improvement area along a given stretch, or if there's a community association. So in this case, it says Bloor, Yorkville on that street sign. We'll see if there's any more to the south of here, but I highly doubt it. And for such a prominent street that runs right down the heart of the city, there's not a whole lot of heritage or historical buildings. I've tried to look that up before, and I did it again on my way down to record this walk. And there's really only a couple of them. So here is St. Mary Street, and this street sign says Barbara Goddard Way on it. Just into the right here is the University of Toronto St. George campus. I think that's Victoria College off in the distance there. I remember popping in that courtyard on a live stream not too long ago. There's a non-electric bus. And the name of this church is escaping me. But that backs on to the University of Toronto, and We've got this rather interesting sculpture in front of it. It's either a donkey or a mule of some sort with casts on its front two legs. There we go. St. Basil's Roman Catholic Collegiate Church. And that is part of the University of Toronto. So here is St. Joseph Street. According to the street sign here, this is Bay Clover Hill. And I think that gets its name from the Bay Clover Hill Community Association. And there's certainly not a lot of people out on the streets. There's an Ontario Provincial Police car. Just sitting in the middle of Bay Street, no indicator. What's he doing? Maybe he's making a U-turn? Nope, he turned into that complex. And just up ahead here is Bay and Wellesley Streets. And these buildings here that are tarped off are under a complete refurbishment. They've pretty much been stripped down to their core. This is an Ontario government office complex, if I'm not mistaken. There's a look east down Wellesley Street. One neat trick, if you're on Google Maps Street View and you want to see what these buildings used to look like, or pretty much anywhere that's changing in the city, you can actually change the date and you can go back several years to all the previous street views that have been captured. It's a good way to get a before and after perspective in different parts of the city. There's a fair bit of retail on the other side of the street, but this side I'm on is much quieter. But I do remember the last time I recorded a walk down Bay Street, it was going down the east side. That e-bike's making a lot of noise. And right here, on the corner of Grosvenor and Bay, used to be a 7-story office building. But that's been torn down as part of this rebuilding process. The plans I read about called for a 39-story office tower to be built on this site. Now we've got some snow flurries. And this is probably the most mispronounced Toronto street name, at least that I can recall. It looks like Grosvenor or Grosvenor or Grosvenor. But I think it's actually Grosvenor, as in Gravwner, I think. And here's Nando's Chicken. At least this location's hanging on. Their Danforth Avenue and Queen Street West locations have closed during the pandemic. I think that was a direct cause of the pandemic. Or rather, the restrictions that didn't allow them to operate as they normally would. And here is Grenville Street. And that is the Toronto Police Headquarters. That actually fronts onto College Street, which is just to the south of here. There's a Toronto Police Museum in there as well. And this is the intersection of Bay and College Street. If you turn right here, College Street will take you in front of the University of Toronto campus and then past Kensington Market, right at the north end of Chinatown, and then you'll find yourself in Little Italy and eventually Little Portugal before the street ends where it merges into Dundas Street West. That's a look to the west. And a look to the east towards Yonge. And these two towers here are the residences of College Park. They're 51 and 45-story office towers that were completed in 2007. There's also a neat skating trail in there, the Barbara Ann Scott Ice Trail. There's a courtyard in between Bay Street and Yonge Street where you'll find that, or rather more of a park. As you can see, everything on Bay Street is a bit almost sterile, for lack of a better word. Perhaps generic comes to mind. There's some attempts to spruce it up with art like this, but when you don't preserve the older style retail at the street, you really lose a lot of the character. And you get this sort of cookie cutter style condo retail. And that's one of the big fears on Yonge Street, that it's losing a lot of its character quite rapidly with a lot of new developments. Bay Street never had that great character to begin with, but there was certainly an opportunity to build it here. And according to the street sign, we are in Toronto's Discovery District, which I thought was actually a bit to the west of here, more towards all the hospitals. But I guess this is part of the area. The Discovery District gets its name as being a hub of tech and innovation and modern hospitals. Although there's a Sick Kids Research Center just up ahead, so maybe that's why it's extended over here. I don't really know. And here is Gerrard Street. This starts just to the west of here at University Avenue and goes east across a lot of the eastern end of the city, through downtown and into East Chinatown, past Gerrard Square and into Little India, where it abruptly ends and restarts itself as Upper Gerrard. And here is the Sick Kids Hospital Research Center. And it's believed that this is the largest center in the world of its kind, devoted to children's health research. A lot of these hospitals in this area, such as Princess Margaret and Sick Kids, do have annual charity drives. And here's Elm Street. And down that way, you'll find Barbarian Steakhouse, which would be my favorite restaurant in the city. Oh, I think I found an old building here. Circa 1897. That plaque's not in a particularly easy spot to read. And just up ahead on the southwest corner here of Edward Street and Bay is the Toronto Coach Terminal.
Former coach.
This is an old Art Deco style bus terminal. It goes back to the 1930s. Although these days, with all these travel restrictions, there's not a whole lot going on in there right now. I think the primary bus companies that operate here are Coach Canada and Greyhound. I'd heard that there was originally plans for them to move south into the new bus terminal we'll be going by later down at CIBC Square. But I don't think that's on the table anymore. There's been various plans to redevelop and reuse this site. Maybe someone can clarify what exactly is to become of this place and where the coach buses will be relocated. I certainly don't know. And we're at Bay and Dundas. There's Uncle Tetsu's Japanese cheesecake. It looks like the cheese tart bake shop is currently not operating. So this is Bay and Dundas Street West. There's a look to the west that'll take you to Chinatown. This here is the Little Tokyo neighborhood. And off in that direction is Dundas Square at Yonge and Dundas. And that would be the Eaton Center right there. This is part of a new wing that went in, I think around 2006. There's some large retailers in there, such as Canadian Tire and Best Buy. And also part of Ryerson University's management school, the Ted Rogers School of Management. It's kind of interesting how a university is sharing space with the busiest shopping center in North America. And just on the right here is an old Toronto hydro facility that goes back to the 1800s. So what I'll do here is I think I'll cross over to the east side of the street. This is the new City Hall here, and just in front of that is Nathan Phillips Square. And there's an outdoor skating rink and the rather well-known Toronto sign. You know what? Let's pass through that way. This is usually a rather long light to wait through. I know I've been through this area in December a number of times in videos, but this will be my first time passing through here since the stay-at-home order. And that off in the distance is Old City Hall. It's currently housing Ontario Provincial Courts. It was extensively renovated on a couple of occasions back in the 80s and in 2002. And I think there's a new courthouse under construction somewhere. So Old City Hall will eventually be repurposed. I've heard there's plans to turn it into retail and a City of Toronto museum. It's certainly not a structure they'll be tearing down. We'll take a quick detour and see what the scene is like here. This is where they had the big Christmas tree. There's a look up at City Hall. Despite the stay-at-home orders, ice rinks are still allowed to operate. The city did put a capacity limit of 25 at a time on them. I'm pretty sure that's being maintained. And it looks like they're in a changeover period. There's the Zamboni doing its thing. And that's a look at the financial district. And of course there's a look at the new version of the Toronto sign. When I worked in First Canadian Place in the financial district, I would often come out this way and grab a meal from one of these vendors. I didn't have a particular one that I favored over the others. I usually just went to whoever had the shortest line. But it's certainly got to be tough times for them. This is Queen Street West. There's a look up at Old City Hall. And you might notice there's some gargoyles on that clock tower. They were part of the original construction, but had to be removed, I think in the 1930s, as they had eroded due to the weather, and as part of the 2002 construction or renovation, they put up some bronze-plated gargoyles. So that was a rather nifty touch. Now we're in the financial district. They've clearly found a warm spot. Although it's not that cold. So here you get one of those neat downtown canyon effects with skyscrapers on either side. This is Richmond Street. Here's a look at the third building going up as part of the Bay Adelaide Centre. So we are 10 minutes from 5 p.m. and there's very little people on the streets. And there's a look up at what used to be the Trump Tower. It is now the St. Regis. I think that's a hotel and condo that's part of the Marriott Group. That was completed in 2007, and a couple of years ago it was rebranded to the St. Regis. This is Adelaide Street, and right here is an old 18-story Art Deco tower. And this one's undergoing a rather extensive refurbishment. That building goes back to the 1930s and kind of squished between the St. Regis and an old Bank of Nova Scotia tower is the National Club. That's a private business club for professionals. That goes back to 1906. I couldn't tell you who's a member there or what they do. It's got a kind of stonecutters vibe to it. We'll take a look up at the St. Regis with Scotia Plaza just behind it. And just on the right is First Canadian Place. This is, at least for the time being, the tallest building in Canada. There's a couple of taller ones going up right now on Yonge Street, on either end of downtown. I've done financial district walks before where I've talked about a lot of these buildings. And normally at this hour, these King Street streetcars would be rammed. And there's nobody on this one. I count maybe 4 people. I wonder how well you can see the CN Tower in that shot. There's the Mies van der Rohe Design TD Center. Well, some of the buildings anyways. And a look up at First Canadian Place. There's the old Toronto Stock Exchange on the right. This has Canada's reputation as being our version of Wall Street. It's worth noting that underneath these streets is the path network, which is an extremely large underground network that connects most of these towers in the financial district to one another, with plenty of retail shopping and food courts. You can also find your way into a number of subway stations, including Union Station just to the south here, St. Andrew Station, King Station, and even Queen and Dundas Station, if you include cutting through the Eaton Centre as part of the path. This RBC tower here is covered in glass that has real gold in it. I think at the time of building there's about $70 Canadian worth of gold in each pane of glass. So just here on the right at Front Street West will be Union Station. It's a subway station, a GO commuter rail station, a Via rail station, and you can take the Up Express to the airport as well. That building on the right is the Royal York Hotel, formerly the tallest building in the British Commonwealth. And just past these railway tracks on the left is the new CIBC Square. And that's where you'll find the new GO Bus terminal. I did a video that went through there right when that opened. Just on the right here is where you could wait for different GO trains. Union Station has been under construction pretty much since the beginning of time. So at some point, probably never, supposedly there'll be proper waiting areas for the various GO train platforms. But for now, it's kind of a tangled zoo. And just on the other side of Union Station is Scotiabank Arena, formerly known as the Air Canada Centre, which is currently home to the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Tampa Bay Raptors are currently located in Tampa, Florida. We don't really know when they'll be returning. I personally think it would have been a good decision of the government to let them play here. Would have been good for the morale. I know a lot of people that have sort of tuned out since they're not even playing in the city. When you think about it, having just a basketball team and an opposing team come in who are regularly tested would probably be a rather low exposure and not really increase the case count. I know it might not be fair to favor professional athletes. That's just my opinion. I think That definitely would have been a good thing overall for the city. And pretty much all of Canada, since they are Canada's only NBA team. On that note, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the Toronto Blue Jays next year, or when they start later this year, or the Canadian Football League. There's a lot of questions, I think, that still need to be answered. So this is the Gardner Expressway I'm currently standing under. That would be Lakeshore Boulevard West. And just in there is the new GO Bus terminal. Pretty much all of this land we're on, south of Front Street, is reclaimed land. This was waterfront at some point. And this building here, where Harbour 60 Steakhouse is located, I've seen pictures of the city either from the 20s or 30s, and that was right at the foot of the water. So there's a period where they were gradually building or filling in the land, reclaiming the shoreline. There's a look at Harbour 60 and all these new towers that have sprung up to form the South Core district just behind it. Or some refer to it as the Airbnb district, as a lot of these condos are quite well known for that. There's also a number of large office towers here. There's the CN Tower peeking out from behind those buildings. And this is Harbour Street. I think I might have said Harbour Street. Harbour Street is up near the University of Toronto. So what I'll do is I'll keep heading south. Lake Ontario is just to the south of here, on the other side of Queens Quay West. So I'll just cross Queens Quay and head to Lake Ontario. And as I say that, I just get, or rather got, a low battery warning on my camera. And the coast is clear. Let's see if I can get to the lake before the battery runs out. I somehow only partially charged it last night. There's the Weston Harbour Castle. And this is Harbour Square Park East. There's the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal. Oh, my red battery warning is now blinking. And we're almost at the lake. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this walk down Bay Street, starting at the northern end where the Yorkville neighborhood is. And we're back. Sorry about that. The battery ran out on the Pocket 2 camera I was using. So I pulled out my Galaxy S20 FE and threw it on a gimbal and thought I would finish off recording the video this way. There's only about a minute left anyways, but I was curious to see what this would look like. I haven't actually used this phone to record any videos for the channel other than live streaming before. I do have it in 4K 60 mode. And here we are at Lake Ontario. There's a look back up north. And it looks like there's some kind of memorial right here. I have no idea who this is for, but that's kind of sad. Sorry, my camera work with this gimbal isn't the greatest. I don't normally use it in the mode I currently have it set to. But there we go. I hope you enjoyed this walk down Bay Street, starting in Yorkville down through the financial district to Harbour Square Park. If you wish to support the channel, there's a link to my Patreon account down in the description. You can also check out channel memberships on the main page. I'd also be curious to know what you think of the quality of the phone versus the camera I normally use. I think I can... No, I'm not seeing where I can throw it into the wide angle mode. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.